Deacon John Wilson here, Education Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church. I get the same question every year, and I'm going to cover it now. And because USC is a great school, the question always is, how do I get into USC? It's one of the most popular schools, no matter what the GPA of the student is. Um, I think I'll start there. Hey, it's a free country. You can apply to any school you want, but don't have the expectation to get into USC with a normally good GPA. You really need to be up around 3.8, 3.7 unweighted to even consider it. The closer you are to 4.0, the better to consider. And that's the first barrier to getting into USC. They say the SAT is optional. If your GPA is 3.7 or 3.8, you need to take the SAT. And if you have not taken it, you can take it in December. You just need to hurry. The deadline's coming up, and we have SAT prep. So I'm going to first deal with the admissions part of it. I'm not going to sit here and represent that at 3.0, or 3.1 or 2 or even 4, that you have a good chance of getting into USC. I better not do that. It's a prestigious, highly selective private college. There are 3 other things you need to know about getting into USC that I must cover as a part of this video. The next thing to cover is the cost of attendance to USC, which I have on the screen here. You can see in the first column here the estimated cost. So tuition is $69,900, which alone is more than 10 times the cost of CSU. Take a selective CSU like Long Beach. I've seen good students come out of there a lot, just like USC, and it's 10 to 12 times the cost of CSU Long Beach. Now, a lot of you will say, well, there is a thing called financial aid. Yes, there is. I'm going to put a link to a video below where I talked about college affordability and basically showed whatever, that you're going to pay, you can either plan to pay 30%, no matter what the grades of your student is, 30% of the cost for CSU. And I'm going to show you how that actually works. You could get away with 25% or, between 20 and 25. I'll show you how that works. Now, you may say, what about need-based financial aid? Just about every student I know that has high enough grades to get into USC, definitely high enough grades. How do I say this? The things that cause the student to have high grades are typically I've seen it be correlated with the finances in the home. Whether the family's Black, Hispanic, or white. Typically the household incomes are above $100,000. Certainly above their $75,000, where they say if you get in, you won't have to do any loans. Occasionally, I do see a family like that who's below $75,000, but the GPA isn't a slam dunk for getting in, or they're so busy in their high school lives that they can't really do a great application. But when I get students like that, I make sure they do well, but that's what I've seen in the data. So it's an interesting thing when we talk about what you're actually going to pay, and when we talk about need-based funds of the USC. If you're making less than $75,000, you could get 80% of the cost covered. That still leaves you 20%. Remember, we've not even talked about the housing or the food, which added together is $20,000. So you're going to see in a moment, if you get a tuition scholarship, which they give away about 15 a year, those are the highest GPA, best application students. I think I've had one student in all my years get that scholarship. Then that means that your housing and food is what you owe. And hopefully you'll have need-based funds that you can apply. That's $20,000. And that would still be 20 of the 95, of the 80,000 or so. You had 69, 20 is 89, 20 of the 89,000, which is about 20%. you still have to pay. So USC is a very expensive school. That's what this chart is showing. And I'll include a link to this. Everything I show you will have a link in the description block below. Okay, there's a few other things we need to talk about. Scholarships from USC. We need to talk about that. So let's get into that next. Okay, let's look at scholarships, and scholarships and USC. Because you might say, well, maybe my student get a scholarship. They have a nice GPA. You need to read this very carefully. Again, I'll include the link below, but this is very important, all of this. Okay? It's administered through the Office of Admission from a few $1,000s. Remember, it's 89,000 to go there. Up to full tuition merit scholarships are awarded based on academic excellence, leadership, service, and talent. These include, this is very important, the full trustee scholarship. I just told you probably 15, 20 students get the full tuition trustee scholarship, which will still make you owe $20,000 a year. The half tuition. So at half tuition, right? Remember half of that amount we talked about earlier, half of 69,000 or about 35,000 you would still owe plus the 20. So you're going to owe 55,000 if your income is too high to get need-based funds. You're still going to owe 55,000 a year if you get a trustee a half tuition presidential scholarship. And if you get the 1/4 dean's scholarship, you're going to definitely need some need-based funds. Even then, it's going to be very difficult. Usually, like I say, you need to plan to pay about $30,000 minimum a year for USC. And you might say you'll do it. That means you're going to take out loans and you've decided you're going to do that. Maybe you're an alum. It's a lot different when you win, isn't it, parents, as far as cost? All right. Now let's take a look at the actual admissions application, because I think if those first two hurdles, grades and the cost and the way the scholarships work is three things, can't be overcome, then why even apply or maybe you don't put as much into the application. But if you're going to apply and you want to be considered for merit scholarships, you've got to have applied by November 1st or December 1st, depending on your major. So we're after November 1st for some majors. Now, early action is not available for certain majors: architecture, art and design, graphics, cinematic arts, dance, anything in entertainment, music, or the World Bachelor of Business. You can't apply early. So that means that applicants to these majors should apply by December 1st to be considered both admissions and scholarships. So December 1st is your next important deadline for most of you. You missed November 1st, so you missed a chunk of the merit money. But now you got to make December 1st to have a shot at additional funds. And you got to understand that those additional funds are going to be matched against that $69,000 a year tuition, as well as the $20,000 dorm and food fee. All right. So let's now get into how do I apply for USC. Okay, so you have early action. As you see, get all these links will be below in the description box. If you want to apply to USC early action, as I said, you submit by December 1st or January 15th. If you submit January 15th, you're not going to get a merit award. I mean, you're just not going to get a merit award. They're going to consider those students that applied by December 1st. So you got to get that application in by December 1st. Okay? Regular decision, you missed November 1st, but you have December 1st is the scholarship deadline. Students applying to these schools, you can see they're pretty much all the schools over here. Early action, you had to do it by November 1st. Regular decision, you should scroll down here. December 1st is your scholarship deadline, and January 15th is the other deadline, okay? You got to get in by December 1st when you read through this carefully to have a chance for a scholarship to USC. And you need that scholarship, students and parents, obviously to cover the cost. Now, like I always tell people, fortunately, there are lots of other great colleges that are just as good or better than USC, even though USC is one of America's top colleges. So don't get so hung up on that it has to be any one school. And that applies also, certainly, to USC.